Hey, it's Curly and welcome back to some more Dear Days. Today we're going to be doing Astroea Unica with the much anticipated Sophie Bell skin. Here's the list. Let's jump into the fight. So we're actually going to be able to go first here, which is pretty good for this deck. You actually do want to go first, because you can actually pop off going first. Our hand otherwise is looking pretty good. We're actually going to keep the one critical trigger here in hand, and just put back the clean sweep. I always say that thing's name wrong. We're going to keep that in hand. I wanted to keep the critical trigger to guard with, so I think we're going to go ahead and discard the grade 1 here in order to ride into our Sparta here. This grade 1 is from set 7, right? The Inhale Pit, which is supposed to be for Altar Slaughter, more or less, but you can use it here. And I had a couple of slots, so I kind of just threw her in, because she's actually not half bad. So Astroea, Almajester Astroea Unica is a deck from Dark States that focuses on filling up your soul. Well, maybe not so much your soul, but taking critical triggers specifically and binding them. You do this by putting them into your soul and then using the skill of the, we might actually draw into a grade 2 that counterblast, so we'll take this. By putting them all into your soul and then using the skill of your Vanguard here to soul blast them out, and then bind any of those critical triggers. Right now, that's the only way that you can really bind. There is another card, which is actually the Ride Line Grade 1 that lets you bind from Soul. And that's it, but this is locked to your opponent being on Grade 3, which is kind of obnoxious. Let's go ahead, and we did get the Grade 3 that I was talking about, or the Grade 2, sorry, that counterblast. I wanted to keep this, but we're going to go ahead and discard this. It's looking like we're actually playing Bob Sagra. We'll use the skill of the grade 1 that I was talking about to soul charge 2, and if any of those are critical trigger, I can draw a card. So we actually do get some shield value back, which is nice. And then, let's, I think, do this first. We're going to go ahead and play out the Gun Ram here in order to soul charge 1. Gun Ram is one of the more important parts of this deck because it allows you to just very easily manipulate your soul. Both in the fact that it allows you to soul charge, so you can dig into your deck to try and get those critical triggers into soul, but also it has the ability to soul blast out 3 to draw a card, which allows you to, you know, fill up your hand. And you tend to have a lot of cards that you can put into your soul due to the fact that you can very easily put stuff back into your soul from drop, specifically critical triggers. Or sorry, triggers in general, actually. So what you can do is you have this sort of little resource engine that you can do where you constantly put stuff into your soul from your drop, and then you soul blast it out, so that you can then put it back into your soul. Because there's a lot of cards like the Klitz Peak Griffin, which we'll hopefully see eventually, as well as, for example, the Ride Line here, the Almajester Turin Dyna, who let you put stuff from drop back into soul, specifically 2 cards. So you really just need 1 extra card for Gun Ram to be free, because you put 2 back, he calls Soul Blast 3, but then he still charges 1, so he's kind of free. You get to use that to sort of get through your deck, see the pieces that you need, which is the most fun part of this deck, is that sort of like resource engine that you can do with your soul in order to, you know, keep swapping stuff back in and out. But then, you know, back to Astroea Unica here. They're going to go ahead and not give me the counterblast, which is strange, to be honest. We'll just take that, that's fine. I don't need counterblasts. So, which is the great part about Unica, is that her skill is all Soul Blast, right? She doesn't need any counterblast, which is why I have cards like the Syri here, just to actually make use of the fact that I have that counterblast. But once you bind those 3 critical triggers, you get 3 different effects depending on how many triggers you have bound. So we're going to go ahead and discard here the Clean Sweep Dragon to ride Astroea here. And then use the skill of our Durin here. We are unfortunately going to use our front row afterwards, which is a bit unfortunate, but that's fine. To call them out, this skill is mandatory. The grade 2 says whenever you ride an Astroea, you have to call these out mandatorily, which is okay and not okay sometimes, but let's go ahead and play the Clit's Peak Griffin here. We unfortunately don't have the Counterblast to use the skill to die on, but it's fine because we can use the Clit's Peak Griffin here to put stuff back. And rather than talk about it more, there's nothing else we can play yet. So we're just going to go ahead and swing in here with our Vanguard Astroea Unica, and then Soul Blast out 3 critical triggers, and then bind those 2 critical triggers, and then get all 3 effects. First effect, retire one of your opponent's rear guard. Second effect, get a critical trigger. Third effect, not critical trigger, get a critical on a Vanguard, and then third effect, you get triple drive. Which is the main strength of this deck, is that on turn 2, while your opponent's on turn 2, if you go first, you can do this, right, where you can swing in with triple drive and a crit to your opponent's grade 2 Vanguard, which is extremely powerful. So we're going to divert the power as such, make both of these 28, so if they do hit 2 triggers, at least one of them can hit. And of course, she has another skill where whenever you Soul Blast out, triggers for her effect, for each trigger you can give a unit 5k, so you can spread out about 15k to, you know, all your units, including herself. We're actually going to get a critical trigger here. How much is this to pass? We can go up to 43. We haven't seen a huge amount of triggers here, so I could be a clown and go all in, but if I miss a single one, I'm fucked. So we'll actually just spread the power on the side. If I do hit all 3, that is kind of insane, because I could just instantly 1. We're actually gonna get the draw trigger here. Alright, let's see. Let's see how this goes. If this third one's not a trigger, I'm gonna be... If this third one wouldn't have been a trigger, I would have been really upset if I won it. But thankfully I did not go all in. So we can go ahead and actually push our opponent pretty hard here, because we have these 2 38k attacks, which are going to be extremely hard to guard, because they are only at, you know, grade 2, 10k base. They just dropped 2 triggers, so while they have an 8-card hand, I know one of them is at least a shield, so they really have a 7-card hand minimum, or maximum I should say. Who knows how many other, you know, arms they have at hand, or grade 3s for example. So guarding this 38 is going to be pretty difficult, so they're just going to go ahead and take it, get pushed to 4 immediately. Well, we're at 1 damage. I really don't agree with them not giving us a counterblast. Granted, I would have been in a bad spot. All things considered, I did top deck into the Clit's Peak Griffin here. If I didn't get that, I would have been in a bad spot. I wouldn't have had enough triggers to even Soul Blast. So, the fact that they knew that is another thing, but, you know, in hindsight, yes. But, unfortunately here, we are going to lose our front row from Sagra's skill. Pretty sure they're going to go ahead and Soul Blast here. I wish they did this a little bit better, because it just randomly stretches out the screen. Yeah, but they're going to Soul Blast here and retire our front row and get a crit, which is gonna suck for us, especially considering I don't really have anything to replace my rear guards with at the moment. I ended up discarding the Clean Sweep Dragon. I said it right, finally, because the Queen Sweep Dragon is one of these sort of, you know, initially strong cards in this deck, because it has, you know, 2 uses. One, it says, so its skill is on place. Actually, no, it's an axe skill, actually. So if you Persona Ride, you counterblast 1, and then you choose any number of units on board, rear guards I should say, and put them into their respective soul. So that means you can choose your own units, put them into soul. So if for whatever reason you have like 3 critical triggers in hand, you can play them out, Queen Sweep, put them into soul. But you can also remove your opponent's units and put them all into soul, which is really good removal. Really good for stuff like Eva, for example, because, you know, their obfuscates can't be retired, but you can easily put them into soul, and they have to go through the trouble of soul blasting it. They can't just use the order to get it from drop, add it to hand, or whatever the case. But also he gets 5k for each unit that he puts into soul that way. So it just, you know, automatically becomes a 35k attacker. Which is pretty strong. Plus booster, that's going to be 43, which is already asking for 2 cards to guard right there. But then you can get, you know, give it an extra 5, 10, 15k thanks to Unica's skill as well. So now we're in a pretty interesting situation where I have to find a way to get cards into my soul. I do have here the Copernicus, which is a very strong tool in this deck, because it says essentially whenever you boost whenever you boost with it, you can put a card from your hand or drop that's a trigger and put it into your soul. So that gives us 1 card. We have to find a way to get 2 more cards in soul. We're going to be able to Persona Ride, which is going to give us 1 extra card in soul as well. So we just need to find 1 more card that we can get into soul, and we might be able to push through this here. I think we just take this attack here and then PG. Either if they hit the over trigger, we have the PG, or if they put like 50 triggers on the rear guard, we can then, you know, just take that. They're actually just going to check both trick moves, as I'm going to drink a sip of my tea here. It actually is English breakfast. Not a tea that I like a lot personally, but I actually ordered, I typically get oolong tea. It's typically like my go-to tea to drink. Because, you know, it's like a light green tea. It has a little bit of caffeine, so it gives me a little bit of a kick. But I ordered some from Amazon, and they accidentally sent me English breakfast, and I was just like, what? That's not even close. What y'all doing? So I messaged them. They gave me a refund, but they didn't want to take the stuff back, so I just ended up getting free English breakfast. So then I just have been drinking it. I tried it out one day. It's a black tea that I don't typically like as much, the darker teas, but it's actually not that bad. It has a little bit more caffeine than the oolong tea, which maybe is why I'm talking so fast. Maybe more than usual. But you know, it's pretty good. Okay, so we did get the clean sweep dragon, so we're actually in a killer spot right now. So we're gonna go ahead and Persona Ride. I really like the Sophie skin. My only complaint is that when you Persona Ride, it seems like she just speed runs through her lines, which I don't like as much. So we're gonna go ahead and play this here. Let's go ahead and do, we can use this skill maybe? Let's go ahead and, yeah, we'll probably do that. So we're gonna go ahead and play this here. Use this skill to soul charge 1. It's gonna not be a trigger. So we're not gonna be able to power up anything right now. Unless I put this trigger from hand into soul. I don't think I want to do that. So we're gonna go ahead and do this. Go ahead and use the clean sweep here to counter blast one, since I did Persona Ride. We're gonna go ahead and put our own Gun Ram into soul, as well as this Trick Moon and this thing here. Right. This is only 1 place from hand, so that's not so important. This actually is maybe more important. They are going to be able to intercept, which is kind of annoying, but I don't want them to have Trick Moons out. Yeah, let's maybe get rid of the intercept here. Put that all into soul. I'm not going to be able to bind with the Sparta, so we're just going to call out our rear guard Unica here. And then we're just going to go ahead and swing in here. We do have the triple drive and a crit. We are going to be able to at least get 1 trigger here into soul. So let's go ahead and use the skill here of the Copernicus. I can do from hand, but we'll do from drop here. And use the skill here to Soul Blast out 3. We're only going to be able to get 5k, so we'll give it to the rear guard Unica, I think, to make that a little bit more threatening. Because right now it's 31. Oh, I forgot about the retire skill, so we can't retire that. Get the crit, and then the triple drive, and then use the skill here. Since we Soul Blasted out 1 trigger, we can give out 1 5k. This is automatically PG'd because it's crit and triple drive. This is only going to go up to like 36, right? So maybe that's not really going to matter. Though 33 is, yeah, well, whatever. We're going to have a huge 48k column here, which is going to be extremely difficult to guard. So they're obviously going to go for the PG for the Unica. So she works a little similarly to like Barrel Magus and Babsagra by extension as well, where the Vanguard terrain is more likely going to be PG, just because it has so much pressure on it with the crit and the triple drive. So now we're going to be able to power up the rear guard here, Unica, to 41, which is, you know, an okay number. And we're going to hit the critical trigger, which we're going to put over here and then give the power to the rear guard Unica. This is already 48. Which is, you know, pretty hard to guard with a lot of cards here. And see if we get in something else. No, we do not. We do get a cup, which is pretty nice. We have a pretty good guarding hand. I'll be honest, this is the 3rd time I try to do this video. The first time, I hella bricked. We're actually gonna go try and swing in for game here, see if we can force out another PG, make it not so easy for them to guard. I hella bricked, could not get any triggers whatsoever. So I was just like, alright, I was gonna use the video, but then I decided, alright, let me give it another shot. Maybe I'll be able to, you know, record a second shot at it. Then I recorded it, gave it a few days, I recorded a second shot, and then I don't know why they must have accidentally used the skill, which is unfortunate, of the shield, because it comes up every time you guard is similar to the base, it just constantly comes up. But I tried it a second time, and then I misplayed by accidentally putting a heal from drop with the Copernicus instead of a crit. Which I was just so heated after that I just shut that down. So the reason I swung in with the Steam Clean Dragon is that they could have there was a chance that I could have won from that play or made them guard harder, because they could have easily just taken this and PG'd this, or they could have easily like used 5 cards or 4 cards, whatever it was, to guard the rear guard column, and then PG the Steam Clean with like a 1-card guard or something like that. So I was trying to make it so that it was a lot harder for them to guard by maybe using the PG early and maybe not having enough to take this attack, but it's not really going to matter too much because again they had the PG, right? So it would have really only mattered if they just didn't have enough units to guard, but that situation would have worked out better also if I had double crit or something like that. Either way, we do have double PG here. Buffsagra and Unica are 2 decks that ironically have the same inherent issue, is that, you know, the Buffsagra can only do 3 attacks but has a huge Vanguard swing. I can only do 3 attacks but I have a huge Vanguard swing. We have some pretty decent rear guards thanks to the Trick Moon, and then thanks to me, you know, Unica giving power to rears, and also the rears getting powers themselves. Of course, they pale in comparison to the Trick Moon boost, the dress boost, but it's kind of interesting that we have this sort of clashing of similar decks, because, you know, 3 attacks decks are kind of like a dying art form in Overdressed, unfortunately, because that's kind of like the whole thing where like a deck, to make it better, they just give it an extra attack, which kind of makes sense. Vanguard is a very attack-centric type of game where that kind of stuff is very important. But so we have 2 PGs, so we can very easily just not take any damage here. But I think we'll take 1 and just PG. Alright, that maybe helps. I was gonna say I kind of want to take a little bit more damage just so they don't like double heal, but they're gonna end up double healing anyways, so it's not really going to matter, unfortunately. They're going to get a huge boost here, so they're going to be a what, 58. So we're just going to go ahead and of course drop the PG here. The downside here for you know, decks like Buffsaga and whatnot is that you know, I had a feeling that I was about to, in my head, I was gonna speak it into existence, but I didn't. But somehow it heard what I was thinking in my head. So they're gonna, interestingly enough, not put it on the Vanguard. But I'm gonna end up PGing the Vanguard anyway. Maybe I shouldn't. Because only 33, and this might get a crit on it. So that might make more sense. So this guards it. This makes it a 2 to pass. I'll be greedy. I'll do a 2 to pass. Alright. Because it can easily check like crit killed me. But that's why they don't want to use the PG on the Vanguard swing here, because they could have very easily just checked the crit, put it on the rear guard. It's 100 million power. I get fucked. Which makes total sense. As I was saying it in my, my head, like, oh, they should have done this. It's like, no, they played that right. Unfortunately, they do have 7 cards in hand here. I do not have much again. I will be able to get the requirements into Soul here if I go ahead and use this perfect guard here to survive for 1. But also when I discard, I specifically select the Chalice and not misplay, select something else. So this way I can Persona Ride, get 2 cards in Soul, and then use the Siri to get the last card in Soul that I need to Soul Blast out and use the skill. And then I can go ahead and like clean up the board, although a clean sweep would be great if I were to get it, but I do not. Let's go ahead and ride our Astroea Unica here. Draw 1. We did not get what I wanted, but I did get something interesting. So this is one of the techs that I play here, the Reaper and Shadow Zelmort. Let's give it a shot, I guess. She has a skill that says you can counterblast 1, put him into Soul, so that gives you Soul. If you need it, but also you look at the top 2 cards of your deck and you call out 1, put the other ones into Soul. I can actually use the Inhale Pit, to be honest. So we're gonna pull the Inhale Pit here. And then we're going to use the skill of the Inhale Pit to take this out. And I believe that puts in 2 triggers from our drop here. So let's go ahead and put in these 2. So now we actually have the means to, you know, go off. So we're going to go ahead and Soul Blast out, I guess, 3. Draw 1. We're going to get another Reaper and Shadow Zelmort, which we can technically use. But I will use here instead the Searing. Trying to basically thin out our deck. A good way to just have all triggers. Oof. Do not want to put any of that. We would have hit over trigger, which would have sucked. That, you know, we're not going to be able to do that anymore. But we're going to go ahead and call this here. Which I maybe didn't need to do anymore. But we're going to try and put these triggers back here. There we go. And we can do one more. 10k versus 5k, yeah, that's better. So we're gonna go ahead and bind one of the draw triggers here for Sparta to get a nice 10k boost, which is bigger than the 5k boost that single trigger would have given us. And then what we can do here is we can swing in with the Vanguard, right? We can use this skill first to go ahead and swipe ourselves a trigger to put into Soul, then use Astroea skill to Soul Blast out 3 triggers, which makes our comp a lot more threatening than they previously were. We are going to... I don't know if I want to keep... I guess let's get rid of this just in case. Let them have the option to guard that way. So that becomes 38. The other column is what? Let's give this 5. So that makes it a little bit easier to do the math. So it's 30, like 41. So let's get the other one here. Swing in here for 43, and this is 41, I think. They're gonna PG. That should be their last PG, I believe. They have 1, 2, 3, and they have 1 in damage. So if I can check the over trigger or crit, I might be able to win the game here. I'm gonna check the heal trigger, which is a bit unfortunate. Let's get the power over here. Make that one a little bit bigger. I believe that's like 51. I don't know. Math is hard. Throw 3s and 8s at me, and I don't know what's going on. Over trigger? It's gonna be the crit. All right. Let's give all power over here. I'm not very good at like knowing where to give power, so that's definitely something I need to like get a lot better at, unfortunately. So here's where you can try and swing in with the bigger number. To try and get more cards out of their hand, but I know they have no PGs left, right? So if they had a PG left, you can swing with a big number that, you know, causes them to lose for game. Then they would have to be forced to PG that. They would have 3 cards left, maybe not be able to guard your bigger number. Yeah, I should have gotten the intercept out of the way and gone for game instead of trying to play for next turn by getting rid of their Trick Moon, because they could just bring that back. So that was a bit of a misplay, I think. Well, let's see if we can swing in for game here, which I think is the case, because they don't have a PG. I don't think they can guard 53 here unless they were playing front, maybe. But even then, that's definitely the better play, because we swing in, hit with the crit. So if they hit a heal, we still won. And that's good. Whoops, I immediately hit thank you very much, but hey, thank you very much, player. So let's go over the deck really quickly. It is pretty straightforward. You play in the right deck, you play the Sparta as well as the Dian. Whoops. Just can use the skill when you ride over Dian to call them both out. Like I said, it might matter later on in set 10 when we get Gandiva. I might have said it in a different video, I don't remember anymore. When we get Gandiva, so that way you have an easy way to get rearguard out. When you retire it, you still have stuff in hand. You don't have to call off from hand. You can use the skill within the Sparta to put stuff into Soul. The Dyna lets you Soul Charge 2, possibly draw 1. And then you just, make use of the resource engine that you can do using stuff like the gun ram to soul charge 1, but then also soul blasting 3 to draw, and then filling up your soul again using cards like the Cleats Peak Driffin, who says on place, take 2 triggers from drop, put them into soul, and then also if there's something in bind, if there's a crit in bind, this gets 5k attack and shield, so you have a nice 10k shield. And then you have stuff like the Copernicus, that whenever it boosts, you can take a trigger from drop or hand, put it into soul. If you put it from hand, you draw a card. So using all that kind of stuff to fill up your soul again. After you soul blast in with the gun ram to draw, or after you use the Unica skill to soul blast out for a skill. Then fill up your soul again, which of course your skill is again, you soul blast 3, bind any crits, and for each of the crits you have in your bind zone, you get one of these effects, 3 being the max, 1 you retire, 2 you get a crit, 3 you get triple drive, and then for each trigger that you soul blast for her first skill, which is technically a second skill, you get 5k that you can distribute to all of your units, or any of your units, not all. And then finally, you know, of course you play 8 crits because you want to have as many crits as possible. 3 draws, you can try out fronts, but you really need to see draws so you can fill up your hand, because you don't really plus crazy amount aside from the gun ram and the triple drive. We play Chalice because you want to hit Persona rides. And then the final thing is, you know, we play these 2 here to make use of the counter blast. You can go more with 1 if you want. If you want the shield value, you can play 4 Siri. If you like the power from the grade 3 or trying to call stuff out, you can do the Reaper in Shadows however you want. I just really like Reaper in Shadows, so I'm playing 2 of him, but he's also just really good because you can very easily put him into soul, which gives you 1 soul, and then look at the top 2. If you want, you can put those 2 into soul, which gives you 3. So counterblast 1, you get the skill for Unica, or you can very easily counterblast 1, look at top 2, call something that might, you know, enable something. You might get like a Cleats Peak, Steam Clean if you Persona ride, stuff like that. But most importantly, of course, it helps you dig out your deck for triggers to put them into your soul. And then the Siri does the same thing, except it looks at the top 3, lets you put 1 in, so you can very easily put in a trigger early game, but then late game just ignore those triggers, thin out your deck, so that the triple drive here is actually pretty threatening. So that's the deck. I've played it quite a lot in the set 9 format, so I think it's a very, you know, fun deck that's pretty good. If things go well, it's pretty strong. When things go south, this is just the absolute worst deck that has ever existed in all time when you don't have any triggers, right? Because it's 3 attacks and you just cannot do anything, no power, no nothing. But that'll do it for the video today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Play Vanguard and have yourselves a damn good one.